Hello and welcome to episode 86 of Cutscene Combos. We've got a jam-packed week. We are doing a character profile on the boys' very own Black Noir. We've got episode 1 of Loki to go through. We've got the rest of season 3 of the
Yep.
boys to go through of Hori. And then we will finally be getting into Gen V episodes 1 through 4. We've got a pretty stacked Nerd News Network, and we've got a content championship, which is Andor versus James Gunn's Suicide Squad. But for all that good stuff, Horizontal, how's your week been?
My week's been busier with work. Um, Same project that I've been working on for a couple of weeks, but started having feedback, changes, send it off again, a bit more tweaks, getting it narrowed down. And I think the project's been submitted to the third party for their
Verification stuffs.
yes. Between the two concepts we're running, so we'll see where that goes. Exciting stuff.
Awesome.
Everyone that is seen the concepts or is involved in the project, everyone loves them.
Well,
Which
that's
you love to
always a good
see.
place to be.
Yeah. So obviously, love to hear that. But yeah, mainly just been doing work. Then got hooked on CS again.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we have. And hooked on CS skins again, which is a dangerous road to be going into. Especially when I'm a freelance artist who
Yeah.
doesn't have a lot of money. But yeah, that's kind of been my week, CS and work, balancing between the two. How's your week been?
How was my week been? It's been chaos. So this weekend just gone was
Mm-hmm.
1 year since my grandfather passed away. So we had a party with family round to all get drunk and catch up,
Mm-hmm.
which was lovely. Then work's just been chaos this week. You know when you just feel like you're chasing your own tail, but
Mm.
you're not like behind schedule or anything. It just feels like you are.
Yeah,
That's what
no.
work's been like. So I'm like, Connor, it's fine. You are well above where you need to be. I'm like, no, there's so much to do. Like, not been ideal. But yeah, again, there's too many games. Sorry.
There is. Even I'm not playing as many. Even I'm struggling with how many
Six
games I've got.
months ago, not even 6 months ago, 3 months ago, I was like, there is nothing to play. I'm deathly bored.
Mm.
And then it was just Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, Cyberpunk DLC, CS2, COD, MW3.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to play FIFA. I've not touched FIFA, thank fuck. And then we've got like Spider-Man coming out in less than a week.
Mm-hmm.
It's too much. I haven't finished Baldur's Gate 3 yet, Hori.
I haven't even got it yet. I've
Chaos, man.
like
That's
see,
why I'm not built for it.
I'm not even playing as many games as you, but I'm like hooked on CS. I mean, we were playing Valorant before CS. Then it's like DayZ's taken over my life because it's one of those got to keep the base alive sort of like servers, multiplayer server. I wanted to. I started playing Cyberpunk. I've hardly had a chance, like, got round to playing that more. Um, New World, I haven't even had a chance to like pick back up yet because I wanted to go back into
It's
that. But
chaos.
yeah, there's a lot of games at the moment. A lot of games.
It's absolute chaos. I don't know how I'm ever going to finish all these games, but I'll find a way.
Oh, fine time.
But yeah, should we get into our character profiles this week?
I think we should.
So last week
Mm.
we did the first part of the boys recap,
We did.
and we worked out roughly where you got up to, and I realised you could not get to one of my favourite stories in the boys, which was Black Noir. You'd seen the very beginning of it, but you hadn't got into the depths of it yet.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, it's really interesting because once you've watched that, I will do a character profile on Black Noir so you
Okay.
can realize that
How
no
different.
one saw what was coming because of how different they made Black Noir from the comic.
Okay.
So that is why this week's character profile is Black Noir.
Yeah.
So I've mentioned this before, but the boys comic is not actually seen by the comic book community as a very good comic book.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of edgelord for the sake of edgelord.
Right.
But then the writers who've worked on it and refined it, as well as I think the original creators work on the show as well, have made it more than that for the TV show.
Yeah.
So Black Noir is the silent, emotionless member of the Seven. However, what most people didn't know, including the reader, was that Noir was in fact a clone of Homelander,
Oh,
designed to kill him if he ever overstepped or became a danger beyond what Vought could accept.
oh shit.
However, as Homelander remained stable, it became harder and harder for Noir himself to remain stable, as he couldn't complete what he felt was his one true goal of killing Homelander. This led to him taking off his disguise and committing crimes as Homelander, so that Homelander would be accused of them. This caused Homelander to sink slower and slower into insanity as he saw photos and evidence of him committing crimes he didn't remember committing, including, in the comics, the sexual assault of Rebecca Butcher.
Oh.
Yes. This would cause Homelander to spiral and then try and take over the world before Noir revealed himself to Homelander and Butcher and explained who he was, what he was there to do, etc. Homelander then tries to kill Black Noir,
Mm-hmm.
and Noir deals with him and kills him. Noir is left in a very bad situation after this fight, which allows Billy Butcher to kill Noir.
Oh.
So everyone, when season 3 was coming around, was like, I wonder if they're gonna do Noir as he was done in the comics.
Yeah, because up to that point we didn't know anything.
Yeah. And then we see the entire story is very, very different.
Mm.
Which means everything that happens with Noir in season 3 is completely
Brand new.
yeah, no one knew what to expect, especially when there was a black man on the screen who was older than Homelander.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm sorry, what? So yeah, that is why Noir is such an interesting character in season 3. And also I think he has one of the better stories because it is more freshly thought of
Yeah.
in conjunction with making the original story work rather than just trying to change a story to make it better.
Yeah. I also like how they added in, they even, because it's fresh, there was a complete new twist that people didn't obviously know coming.
Exactly. However, before we get into the boys,
Mm.
Loki season 2 episode 1.
Yes. Dropped
Is it
just last week.
is it just me? It might be just me. Or does it
Okay.
seem prettier this year to you or this season? It seems
Uh,
like they've changed the visuals ever so slightly, and I think I prefer it.
so I know from looking at stuff and like people comparing to like scenes we saw last season, I think this is on purpose, but it's brighter in places. Well, it's brighter when Loki was bouncing into the past.
Right, yeah.
So I think that's helping it like feel prettier. Also, I think they have like really kind of nailed the aesthetic that they want to go for with the TVA and everything. Of that like analog but kind of futuristic still. Um I think that's also helping. Like another season, more time to refine like this world that they're building and kind of how it should look. But yeah, no, I'd agree. It looks good.
Um, it really didn't skip a beat from where we left off,
No, it didn't. Which I'm
which I was
glad.
hoping it wouldn't. Yeah, I never understand when stuff gets left on such a cliffhanger,
Mm,
and then they feel a need to build back into the show again. It's like, no, we left you there.
yeah.
Don't go like a little time jump and then flash back to what's happened. Just fucking let us hit the ground running and be like, oh my god, this is chaos.
I think
And it was actually refreshing because I feel like we've
yeah,
not had that in a while.
we haven't. And I think it was also nice. Like it also makes sense to do that. Like if it was in on Earth or whatever, and like how long it's been since season one, like you could have played off like, oh, it's now still present day and like time's passed. TVA is in its own little thing, so there's no worry about how much time has been going on in other places in the MCU. And like you say, jumps straight back in, hits the ground running. Uh, Shit's hitting the fan.
Yeah. So we knew from the trailers going into this that this time slipping was a problem.
Yeah, we
Um,
did.
but it's really interesting because at first, even though I knew time slipping was a problem, when we came back into this and we saw Morbius at the end of the last series not knowing who Loki was,
Mm.
even once I knew time slipping was a thing, it didn't occur to me that Morbius didn't know who Loki was because this was before he knew Loki.
Mm. Well, this is the thing, right? If we think back to season 1 and how it ended, our theory, or the theory at least you were saying shouldn't be possible, but I was throwing out maybe there's multiple TVAs, like this is a multiverse, and you were like, but the TVA is meant to exist separate to that. At no point, I think even back then, did we consider it could just be a different point in time in the
Yeah,
TVA. And I think, like you say, we learned in the trailer about time slipping, of which then everyone was comparing it to what we saw in Spider Verse with him
yeah,
glitching between multiverses. So then again, we're like, okay, so is he jumping between versions of the TVA? But yeah, like as soon as it's like he realizes this is early, like, and the way that they show the realization, they don't really necessarily say like this is early days TVA. It's when he time slips back and the cracks on the floor, and then it's like, oh shit, he was
yeah.
earlier.
And this gives us a lot of context clues as well, because it's obviously we know Kang set up the TVA with the three fake timekeepers.
Hmm.
So this clearly shows that this was before he came up with the timekeepers ruse,
Well,
and everyone worked for him, and then he's come up with the timekeepers ruse, wiped everyone's memory again, and almost restarted it with them thinking the timekeepers came up with everything.
mm, well, my fit going off what like things got revealed, right? And the in the boardroom, obviously Loki reveals what he'd already seen, which is like there's 5 Kang heads. There's also different Kang statues. They don't all look the same. I think what was actually going on is it was multiple Kangs, maybe, and then the one that we know as He Who Remains. Maybe he got rid of them or didn't like how things were being run, and that's why like he wiped everyone and was like, okay, we need to do the free timekeepers and do it that
Maybe.
way to kind of erase this memory of the evil Kangs that were controlling things.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. But it was interesting to see how we're cutting all over the place. Then we get Ki Juan's character. Is that how you pronounce his name?
I forget how to pronounce his name. Star
So
of
yeah, you got his character's name is Ouroboros, which is
yes.
the snake that eats its own tail and forms the
Mhm.
circle, which is also the name of the episode. Ki Juan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You gave it an effort.
Um, so then we meet his character, who
Yes.
maybe doesn't get his memory wiped because when we're
So
going back in time, he remembers the conversation he's had with Loki.
I have a theory with this, right? So
Okay,
he remembers uh Morbius. Morbius? But Morbius doesn't remember him, and he's like, well, yeah, you ended up on the wrong floor off the elevator. Almost like everyone he's right on the lowest floor in the basement, could very easily be
been
forgotten.
forgotten. Yeah,
And essentially, like, whatever was used to wipe everyone's memory, Kang didn't even realize he was down there. He just didn't get his memory wiped. But because he's down there alone, he don't have a fucking clue what's going on upstairs, and that all this stuff happened.
yeah. That's what I assumed. That's why Mobius didn't remember him.
Hmm.
And you just got him pretending he did. But I did enjoy the notion that the past and the present were happening both simultaneously,
Hmm.
but they were still chronological. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, the way they
Because
were doing it
Loki's
is
like experiencing time identically at both times.
yes.
And it's almost like when your memories refresh is when he tries to remember. He's like, no, I don't know anything about that as he's
and then your
remember, and
brain,
because
yeah,
he's
and then
trying to remember the memories. Like, no, I'm here. See, it's
yeah, it's
interesting.
that thing where you're like, you like, oh no, I don't know that, and then someone goes, it's like someone saying, no, yeah, you were there, and you go, oh wait, no, yeah, I was there, like a memory comes back in. I really liked, yeah, like you say, how they were passing that information across time, essentially,
Yeah, yeah,
and how they were showing Loki's in the past and those things. Like, and something that I think a lot of people say about time travel and stuff is like, oh, well, if you do something in the past, it's going to change, like, affect so many things in the future. Like, they're playing into that of like, well, yeah, if they had a conversation, there's things that then are going to be remembered in the future.
see, I think with the way the TVA is portrayed to us as well, you can get around a lot of that concern with time travel by simply going, well, if whatever you do in the past is going to affect the future, it's already affected the future, so you don't need to worry about it because you were supposed to do it.
Mm,
Because we're explaining that time is just a bigger loop here,
yeah,
an Ouroboros.
yeah,
So every single time this is what Loki's done,
hmm,
so he has to do it, even though he doesn't realize he has to do it. So it's like it's a self fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was really well done.
The
Then we get
oh, I was going to say the
go on.
effect for time slipping was so well done.
It looks really uncomfortable, doesn't it?
Yeah, they really sold the like how painful it looked, and also visually, just like the way that they did that effect of him tearing apart, like, was very very cool.
Yes. I'm impressed with the quality of the visual effects so far.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind we were quietly concerned that with this being the only one that wasn't delayed and the
Mm.
no reshoot policy, as well as some stuff that's come out this
Well,
week, which we'll discuss once we get to the news, I was a little bit worried we were going to notice it.
yeah, and I mean, but I think something I noticed that they quite clearly, like when Loki was time slipping in the like control room area, that is very clearly filmed on a practical set because they were doing like handheld camera walking around pan. It's like that's they seem to be filming on bigger like actual sets than they would normally, which I
Yeah.
think is also helping like not relying so heavily on CGI and everything.
hmm Um, but we, it's crazy because it felt like we got a lot of plot, but not a lot of plot at the same time.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So the episode was very much focused around this problem of the time slipping,
Yeah.
which, based on what else we've seen from the trailer, I don't think they have actually fixed, even though they think they fixed. Um,
Yeah.
and we also find out that these kind of power surges that are going on, that we
Mm.
see throughout the episode, Chekhov's gun, um, are because of the branching timeline. So the way it's explained is the timeline is essentially a power cable, if you imagine it like that.
Hmm.
And now all of a sudden, you've got a load of loose cables inside the like shrink wrap, and they're bursting out, and there's too much power coming through because they're all generating current. Because these branches are now big enough to have an impact, and you've got so many of
Yeah.
them.
You
So he's like, I need to do something about that.
yeah, we learn this is called the temporal loom.
Yeah,
Is and everyone's like, what the fuck is this? And you got Ouroboros is like the thing that runs like this controls the whole TVA. Obviously, we've experienced it as just a thing on a screen and kind of just we've seen that visual on the in the where the man who he who remains was like we saw the way that the branches and everything were. Didn't realize that it's that basically like these threads being wrapped together by a machine. Um, Something to note about that though is when Loki goes back, time slips back in time. There's when he's upstairs, like in the TVA bit, there's discussion of like a load of new branches. It's almost like they've had these events happen a few times.
yeah,
Because also I noticed someone else was like, clearly this happens a lot because they have blast doors built for this happening. And you don't build blast doors if it's not something that's clearly been an issue before. So
Yeah,
I
it's
wonder if that's also, like you say with Chekhov's gun, like, I wonder if that's something also gonna play into effect, that this is like a recurring thing the TVA deals with?
yeah, it's also really funny because the TVA has like been managing the timeline and like the sacred timeline and the way, and they've essentially dictated how everything's happened so far
Mm.
because they're following the sacred timeline. Um, the entire time they followed it without any repercussions.
Mhm.
But then we get to this point and none of them know what the thing that powers the building they're in is.
Yeah,
And it's kind of this idea of just they just do as they're told and they don't question anything.
yeah,
And it's kind of like a maybe you should question things, guys, and don't just take what you're told as God's honest truth.
yeah, it's like they're told, "This is how things are done," and they're like, "Okay, cool, doing my job." And then it's like, as soon as something new appears, it's like, this isn't in like, this is not something I've been told or how to deal with. They're like, what the fuck do we do now? It all just crumbles. Like, everyone's falling apart. They're now deciding, like, okay, we're not going to purge anything till we figure this out, because maybe purging everything is bad.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
they're like we all had lives on the sacred timeline. Then we
yeah.
deviated, and now we're here working. That means we could have had actual goddamn lives, but they decided we didn't get to. Um, so it's very interesting to see how that's going to play out going forward, especially the kind of difference between those who still believe in the sacred timeline and those who are like, no, guys, listen, stuff isn't as it should be right now.
Hmm. Also, with the time slipping, Loki jumped forward in time as well.
Yes, the very last one, he went forward in time, which is interesting.
Yeah. And I do think, like you said, that's not solved. And then it was like, all this is happening, obviously, and the episode was very focused on Loki's time slipping. Got to set up all these new kind of main bits of information about how the TVA works, while also let's fix this time slipping issue that Loki has, so that then he can be helpful.
Yeah,
But
100%.
also going on is, what the fuck did Sylvia do? Loki doesn't know that she killed.
Yeah, he's assuming that she did because
Yeah.
everything's going wrong, but she doesn't know that for sure.
Uh, we have no idea like what happened after that. Um, and then all the TVA board member was just like, right, send an army after her. like, like it's literally sending a whole army for
Yeah,
one person, and then we end the episode getting to see where Sylvia is.
yeah, Sylvie.
Sylvie, um, in a
Yeah, she,
McDonald's.
which we kind of knew was coming because of all of the advertising McDonald's did around Loki.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's kind of that moment that I think we're going to see from a lot of the characters who are like debating whether they want to go back to their timeline or live on the sacred timeline or
mm-hmm.
whatever. Is I can do anything now. We're no longer trapped by this notion of this is the sacred timeline. You think you want to do this, but actually, if you do something else, you're gonna get pruned. She
Yeah,
can try and do whatever she wants, and it doesn't matter now,
yeah.
which is really really cool.
Now, I don't know if you feel similarly, but this almost feels like it's, to me, they're doing a better job at setting up Kang than Ant-Man did.
That is a very common sentiment I've seen. Um, and yes, exactly what it is. Tom Hiddleston has come back terrified, but they're talking about it as if it was this episode alone. And everyone's like, oh, the 20 minutes of this episode where they're dealing with Kang or talking about Kang
Mm.
is more intimidating than all of Ant Man and the Wasp. Ant Man and the Wasp made Kang threatening.
Yeah,
I think people are forgetting overall quality compared to Kang. I know people got butthurt that Kang got beaten by ants. Need I remind people that ants are terrifying, and if they were the size of you would shit your pants because they could demolish you. But
also,
also,
there's many Kangs.
yeah, exactly. Just because this Kang got beaten by ants doesn't mean they all are. Um, this Kang was still intimidating, quite scary. But then you have He Who Remains, which again shows you a whole different kind of
Mm.
Kang who was intimidating in his own separate way. It's all coming together to give us this picture of what we should be afraid of. Now they just need to deliver.
Yeah, I think it feels to me less about like actually showing us and giving us Kang like Hype Man did, which I do agree that helped us understand how strong and powerful he is. And then they tease like the Council of Kang and stuff. I think what's more interesting is like this is showing a different side of Kang again, where it's like clearly there was some in power, and we don't know what happened for them to then hide from power, or he who remains ended up in charge. So then it's like, okay, there's different levels to like how long Kang's been controlling stuff, like what the fuck's been going on that we didn't know about. I think that's what's more interesting about Loki.
100%. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see now that Loki's been fixed, or so we're led to believe,
Yeah.
and the loom's been shut down or whatever, managed, maintained. Kind of, where do we go from here? Are they just going to be hunting Sylvie the whole time? They're going to be hunting Sylvie and dealing with like infighting in the TVA over whether we're pruning branches or what. If they're not pruning branches, what function do they serve?
Hmm.
Or are they of the opinion of like everyone stop pruning branches until we find Sylvie and work out
What happened?
what the plan is?
Yeah.
Um, it's very much a case of all powerful entity, as in the TVA, is just like, well, shit. Now what do we do?
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see, like you say, if they focus on getting to Sylvie and finding like warning her what's coming for her, or if it's either protect her, or if it's going to be kind of a mix of them hunting down Kangs for more information,
Hundred
um,
percent.
trying to figure out like what was going on before they all had their memories wiped. Maybe that's part of it. Like them trying to
Yeah.
relearn essentially where the TVA came from.
I what I think right now I would like to see
Hmm.
is them to tune, just instead of getting rid of the time slipping, like what they did was kind of effective, so now he doesn't time slip as much.
Yeah,
So like it's just like it's like he's been medicated now. It's only going to happen occasionally. Um,
I'd like
and
to
then
see
use
it.
that to like tell multiple different stories, and you get like this kind of jump around where he's trying to solve the problem before it's happened,
Hmm.
while it's happening, and after it's happened.
I wonder if you think about it, they kind of pulled him out in the TVA. So maybe when he's in the TVA, he doesn't time slip. But when they start like traveling to timelines and different things, he's then not like essentially where he should be. So then it starts affecting him again. And maybe that's where like he jumps forward in time, sees Kang before he becomes Kang in this timeline, then sees him what he's done to the timeline. Maybe
Yeah,
that's where
100%.
it starts playing into effect. There's also a lot of people were like trying to use the little keypad things for Miss Minutes, and Loki had to be like, Miss Minutes is gone. Is she rebooting, or is she just gone? Do we think?
I honestly don't know. I mean,
I
Loki doesn't trust her
no.
because she was there.
I think it's rebooting or something, and that Miss Minutes is actually gonna have the answers to them of like how they all got their memory wiped to what happened before all that. I think Miss Minutes is going to be the key to that.
You think once Miss Minute starts working again, is going to be the big bum bum? Here we go. Oh shit moment.
Yeah, or it's like maybe it's like program restarted so the Miss Minutes doesn't know everything that's happened and starts on welcome to the TVA. Kang is your like, and it's like back to default. Doesn't realize that all that's not meant to be told, sort of, and then spills a load of information. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely possible. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
We've still got a lot more story to tell, obviously.
we have still a lot of places we could notice issues, as we discussed
100%.
last week.
But I definitely think it is a solid
Opening.
welcome back
Yeah.
to this story.
Yeah.
And let's just fucking on the ground, hit the ground running, stuff happening, chaos, just as you left it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Now, Hori,
Yes.
when we left you last week,
Yep.
you were
Just
just about to hit the fucking insano-meter on the boys' story.
yeah, I just got started on season 3. So we'd mainly focused on season 1 and 2. Yeah.
You hadn't met Soldier Boy yet?
No, not
You, you,
back from
you,
the
you
dead.
yeah, you definitely didn't think that Motherfucker was still alive.
Well, yeah, I didn't know that.
You didn't. You'd barely started Black Noir story.
Yeah.
Billy had only taken temp V the once.
Yeah.
How you feeling, bud?
Well, it felt like it all went wrong very quickly in season 3.
Uh-huh.
Feels like all the control that Vought had quickly started falling apart. Yeah, there was a lot of twists and turns that I really wasn't expecting. I have a feeling I remembered, like, as I was learning that Temp V was lethal, I was like, I feel like I remember Connor mentioning that, like, they.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you have the answer, but are we now to, like, Billy wasn't meant, like, I feel like it was, like, meant to be the person, like, oh shit, he's just died because he's taking too much Temp V. Is it now a situation of, like, are we expecting it to be he can't take any more, or that's him dead, like he's on his last chance?
I think we are supposed to take it of if you use this drug again, you are likely to die. Because what it allows them to do is have one in the back pocket for if they really need it,
Hmm.
plot wise, but it stops them relying on it for narrative reasons.
Okay. Because that was also seeing that progress, and I mean, getting Billy's a little bit of Billy's backstory when he got put into the, like, nightmare. That was also very cool to see and learn more
Uh-huh.
about his brother and what happened and what led him to there. And then him stopping Huey by just knocking him out in a bathroom rather than telling him. Uh, but yeah, we got Black Noir where we'd last talked. I'd seen the flashback to, like, the war,
Yeah.
and it's shown.
Was it Vietnam?
It was Vietnam or wherever they were stationed doing this drug stuff. And it was like we'd seen the old squad there, and then everything went, like, shits up. And the last thing we'd seen of Black Noir in that flashback was half his face had been burnt, and you're like, oh shit, a rocket had been, like, the shit had exploded and gone wrong. Basically, kind of my thought was like, oh shit, he got, like, fucked up with a rocket. That's now, like, he's burnt and scarred. That's why he wears the mask and covers up, because also the whole he's a black guy, so, like, well, we can't show your face. But the reason, like, he never got to eventually take off the mask is because he was, like, badly
Yeah.
scarred. Wasn't expecting Soldier Boy to be alive. Wasn't expecting Soldier Boy to be Homelander's dad.
Yeah.
And then there was the whole twist of what actually happened in Nam or whatever, wherever they were stationed. And that it was actually them all trying to kill, well, not kill Soldier Boy, but knock out Soldier Boy and sell him off, essentially.
Yeah.
Because Vought had Homelander in training wheels.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
they didn't think he'd step aside.
yeah, and we
I think
learn.
Jensen Ackles fucking smashed his role in The Voice. Because
Yeah.
Jensen Ackles, who I think is quite a likable guy,
Mm,
playing such an unlikable character, I was a little bit like, this could go one of two ways. But he nailed it. And like some of the interactions they had where he's like, and you know what the crazy thing is? If they'd have asked me to step aside so my son could be in the leading
Mm.
light, I'd have happily stepped aside for you. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting because, like, while you're like, "Oh, that's sweet," at the same time, I'm not completely sure I believe him.
Well, it's also like you're knowing what Homelander's like. You're like, ah, shit. If they would make the worst duo.
Yeah,
Like, that just would be the worst people in charge.
100%.
Uh,
Um, so the big thing I wanted to talk about was Black Noir's story, especially
yeah,
that episode where you get like the animated one
yeah,
where it breaks it down and it shows you just how messed up Noir is.
yeah. It's quite clearly it's like PTSD and it like from getting just absolutely face melted. Like what's going on in that head of his.
Yeah,
I thought that was very cool when he's like sat in there. And I'm like, oh, there's like he's seen cartoons. It's obviously like just PTSD. So like shit, and then it's like, oh, he's come up with like a whole cartoon of
he's got his own Looney Tunes
yeah,
going on.
like the soldier boy and everything, and then it's like it starts showing what happened in the cartoon. I actually think that was a more brutal way of showing it, watching the
It was
cartoons get fucked up.
absolutely a more brutal way because it has such a rough. Because like with the boys, you're expecting to see gory and like
Yeah,
outrageous stuff. So to get like this break away from that, where you see this light-hearted cartoon
and then
and
it
have
just
it be
goes,
just as brutal,
yeah,
it gives you that contrast that makes you go, "Oh shit,
yeah,
yeah, no, that's not good." Um, and Black Noir went from being this fuck Black Noir, he's just as bad as the rest of the seven. In fact, he's worse because he just sits there happily and doesn't worry and does it all.
mm.
To then find out how traumatized he
And
is
yeah, he's
just
just
so
actually just living
interesting.
in fear.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, but yeah, the whole Black Noir thing was very interesting. I enjoyed that. I'm trying to think what else went down.
What
Oh,
did you think of Herogasm?
I now understand what you meant, where you kind of expected it to be even crazier.
Yes. For
Like,
how crazy it was built up to be with everything around it, I don't think it stood out as that outrageous compared to the rest of
no,
the show.
I feel like it started off in the right direction because obviously you get Mother Milk like walking in. He's like, "Oh my god, what just ended up on my jacket?" And then he opens the
Yeah.
door and gets absolutely just drenched. Like everything is like, okay, this is some wild, crazy shit going on, and then it's like it kind of just ends there. Other than you see
Yeah.
Deep with the octopus, that's the only
Yeah.
other crazy thing that happens. It then obviously becomes about like, oh shit, shit's about to go down here.
Yeah. You obviously have the massive fight
Yeah,
between Homelander and Soldier Boy and Butcher, and then Starlight and Huey are there, and Mother's Milk's there. It's fucking chaos.
yeah,
There is something very badass about Mother's Milk there, ready to fight Homelander without Temp V,
yeah. You don't give a
without
shit.
backup. He's like, fuck it, let's
I
do
think I
this.
think the best bit was when he threw the gas at Soldier Boy, and Soldier Boy's like vapes it
Oh, yeah.
essentially. He's like, "Oh, this is
Yeah.
some good stuff," and he's like, "Ah, shit, that didn't work." Uh, but yeah, the I was also the moment that I think Homelander finds out Billy has uh powers,
Yeah.
not understanding how, but he's like, he obviously zaps him, and he fought, and then he comes back up, and he's like, "Wait, what the fuck? How are you alive?" Um, and I think that catches him off guard. But yeah, there was some good fights.
100%. The fight choreography was a lot better in this season, I feel.
Um,
Um And then I think one of my favorite subplots was the radicalization of MM's daughter's stepfather. I
yeah,
forget his name. It was a bit on the nose, wasn't it?
yeah. It,
And somehow, even in season 3, certain people don't realize that they're the butt of that joke.
mm, it's funny because it's like you watching it obviously happen from when you look back. It's like, oh yeah, he was into soup stuff. He dressed up as Homelander. He slowly was becoming more and more like going like reading shit on Facebook. Like what genuinely happens with like Trump supporters, and it's like then they just refuse to like they're being told the truth, and they're like, no, that's not possible. It's clearly this bullshit the media is feeding me is the truth, and it's like no. Um, and then obviously at the end when Homelander zaps the
Yeah.
protester, and he's just like, yeah,
Oh,
like that's
yeah.
a what?
Yeah, and then this is the thing. It was genuinely. I remember at the time on Twitter, it was a bit of a bit of a thing. It's like, yeah, we can all sit here and laugh at this, but it's genuinely getting to the point where I
This
feel like
happens.
Trump could just pop someone in the head with a gun and people would cheer for him.
Probably. Well, it's more than there's more people than just Trump. There's so many
Yeah,
people nowadays where it's like they have such cult followings
yeah.
that they could get away with that shit.
I genuinely believe if all of the stories about Jimmy Savile were to break for the first time right now,
Oh,
that people would just instantly dismiss it.
some maybe it's wild. Um,
Yeah, I genuinely like. I see that as a problem. But I
oh,
mean, just the way it does everything is so interesting,
there was
and obviously you
also
get the little bit right alongside that scene where I forget the boy's name. Just kind of looks around. He's like, oh, so this is what power feels
yeah,
like, and
his
you
son,
just see that
yeah.
shit-eating grin.
You see his son. I think that's also the worst thing. Is like there was still hope through season 3. Like I know I was like, oh Billy, you've been a dick to that kid. Um, that you fucked up there. I'm like, this kid's gonna hate Billy, but at least he's like in a place where he's being brought up right. But then it's like, no, Homelander's managed to get in there now, and we're seeing everything that we still hoped this kid wouldn't become. This kid's becoming, and it's like, ah, shit. Well, that's going to be a problem for the future.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
there was also so many like obviously by this point, I'm expecting people to backstab other people and
Yes.
like twists. And you've got the congresswoman backstabs her adopted dad, who was
Yeah.
CEO of Vote. You get um obviously Starlight goes to her friend that the one that joins the Seven, and gets him to be like, "Oh, we've got this plan to get rid of Homelander." He then makes the dumb idea to go to A Train, of which then A Train backstabs him and gets him absolutely just destroyed, because
Yeah.
A Train only cares about staying happy with
Yeah. And
Homelander.
if I go and help Homelander out right now, he'll stop being mean to me and calling me fat. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you got the Deep, who wants to include an octopus in his relationship, so his wife then backstabs him. Um, After he's
It's
just constantly trying to get his approval off Homelander.
yeah, it's an interesting series. I think one of the most jaw-dropping moments for me was I think it's at the end of Hero Gasm when A Train kills the racist superhero.
Yeah.
And then you find out either at the very end of the episode or the beginning of the next episode, he got the guy's heart.
Yeah.
And I'm just there
It's
like,
like such
oh
a
my
fucked up thing to
god.
do.
A Train was literally willing to die to kill this racist piece of shit. And now he's got his heart in his chest.
Yeah, that was. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. So at the end of everyone's like coming out of Hero Gasm after it all went shits up. And then he's like, he confronts him. And then as soon as he started running, I was like, oh, he's going, like, this guy's dead. I was like, this guy's
Yeah.
just going to be ground to a paste. And then obviously he stops and he starts having a heart. I'm like, oh, he's killed himself to do that. Well, that's one way to go out. At least he didn't have to deal with the consequences. And then he's woken up. He's like, oh, you were trying to rush him to a hospital and save him. And it's like, Vought knows exactly what happened. They know what
Vaught's
that,
PR department is so good.
and yeah, and it's like, you know that they realize that that guy was like a racist piece of shit. But then it's like, they're so concerned about public image that they don't give a shit about the fact that they're putting the racist guy's heart into A Train and what that would do to someone mentally. And they're just like, oh, we can spin this into a great story. And then obviously he has to deal with that now. Um, Yeah, I mean, overall, The Boys was great.
Yeah.
Obviously, I knew I was gonna enjoy it, and it's just one of those things where like I kept putting it off and off, partly to just spite you at times. But then once you'd watch Rebels, I'm like, ah, shit, I now have to. Like, it's only fair.
Yeah.
Um,
But now that means you're ready for Gen V.
yes, which I've binged as well.
Yeah, and we are up to date on 4 episodes of Gen V. Oh, brother. I
Yes.
think they've taken everything good from the boys
Yeah.
and applied the same concept to a college drama.
Yeah. And
There's
essentially,
there's social circles, there's drama, and
there's
then they just go,
backstabbing.
okay, but what if this drama happened and these people could kill 1 million people by accident?
And also, what if we make everything is the underlying thing is everyone is faking it and just wants to be popular. Like everything's like the Vought way of it's fakes for media. So you don't actually get to see like that's the big thing. So yeah, see, it's like you say, it's got everything the boys had, including no one is real, everyone is fake to everyone else. And like adding that into a college setting is already believable because like everyone knows like people are fake at that age. People are like fake to other people and like will do stuff like learn about something and twist it to like because they're the popular kid. But then this is like superheroes doing this because at the end of the day, they're all trying to become what like in the seven is like they all just want to be popular on the internet. Almost feels like when Twitch streamers backstab each other.
So, little fun Easter egg for you.
Okay.
You know, in season 3 of The Boys,
Yeah.
when Starlight and Huey break into that adoption place for kids with superpowers,
Yes. Some.
Marie is
Hmm.
on the screen.
Oh, is she?
As they're scrolling through, she's one of the kids you see.
Oh, okay.
Because
I
obviously
obviously,
that's where she comes
yeah,
from.
I picked up on like it was the same place. That was one thing as well. Going into Gen V, I was interested to see. I was like, are they going to set this straight after what's just gone down in the boys? Because obviously that's fresh in my mind. And
Yeah.
then it's like it says, like the way they're showing it, I'm like, oh, they're setting up. This is going to be like Deep had just got into the seven. I was like, oh, it's going to be set a few years back then. And then it's like jumps to present day. And I'm like, oh no, it is present day after
They just
everything's.
wanted a bit of trauma first.
Yeah, they just wanted to show us all that shit that happened and set up this main character.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, what a way to kill your parents. Like, damn.
So I'm not you won't have seen this, but there is a animated boys spin-off called Despicable or Diabolical, sorry.
Oh, okay.
And I believe what it's like a anthology series, I think.
Hmm.
And one of the episodes is set in a school for kids who have shit superpowers.
Right.
But all of them accidentally killed their parents.
Got you.
Um, but yeah, it's really interesting. All of the powers in Gen V are so much more interesting than the boys. Because the
Yeah.
boys is just generic superpowers.
Yeah.
And some people are going to hate this, some people are going to love it. I think it's a bit too on the nose at times, but having discovered what I have about general people's media literacy over the last couple of weeks, I think it needs to be this on the nose. But every one of the main character's superpower is directly tied into their perceived mental health struggle.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so interesting how like this all comes together. And obviously, you get the very on the nose discussion between Marie and Emma,
Hmm.
where she's like, "But like, you're purging, you're throwing up all the time. That's an
Yeah.
eating disorder." And she's like, "And you cut yourself to use your power. What's the fucking
Yeah.
difference?"
Yeah. You're self harming.
Yeah, and
Which
like, and this what you
I would say I picked up more on her doing that. I was like, I associated that more to her self harming because there was so many times where she just cuts herself to do a bit of it, and I'm like, you're just doing that for the sake of doing that now. Like,
and then you're
there's
using your power to make yourself feel better about it.
yeah, and then Whereas like Emma clearly doesn't like having to do what she wants to do.
No.
I
Um,
also, this is
go on.
solely off thing, but with like Emma and her powers, I so knew she was going to go big. I
Yeah,
realized when she was like, "Oh, I eat to get big again," I was like, "She can just go the opposite way then, surely,"
yeah,
which was very
yeah.
cool.
But like when you look at all the characters, you can really clearly see where it comes from. Obviously,
Mm,
Jordan struggles with gender identity,
yeah,
and their main superpower is that they're super strong and super durable.
yeah,
Awesome, very useful superpowers. And then just as a result of that, they can also change their gender at will.
yeah,
And they make it very clear very early on that they are exceedingly comfortable as either
yeah,
because they are gender fluid.
yeah,
And like you see Jordan in these first 4 episodes having sex as both
yeah.
their male version and their female version, not really caring. It's like, no, this is what I am right now.
Something that's also interesting about Jordan's character is like very, in a way, very mirroring of current events with how certain groups of the world don't like gender fluid people. They perceive it as like Jordan's difficult to market. Your gender, like we can't market you. You're gender fluid. The public aren't going to like that. Like mirroring this thing of like, obviously as viewers are like, well, why is that an issue? The general person is like, that shouldn't be an issue. But obviously they're mimicking like what's going on in the real
Yeah.
world where they're having these issues. They're not
When you bear in
accepted.
mind contextually what happened at the end of season 3 of Homelander murdering an innocent man
Yeah,
and getting cheered for, the same audience that believes in Homelander and believed in Stormfield?
Stormfront, Storm.
Stormfront, who was a literal Nazi, are not gonna like Jordan Lee.
Oh, who even in we learned that. Sorry, back sort of going back to boys, but in season 3 we learned that her supporters are still going.
Yeah,
The Storm
100%.
Watchers or whatever they've called themselves.
Yeah,
So it's like, yeah, this idea that she's not marketable is kind of such a reflection of current times.
yeah. Um, so then you've got that, and then you've got, I forget her name, Golden Boy's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
you find out in episode 3 that she found out about her powers by telling her
mm,
brother to go away and never come back, and then he did.
yeah. Which is like again a brutal.
Imagine.
Like when you're a kid at that age, like you can understand that of like a sibling being honest. Like, oh, just leave me alone and go away. And it's like imagine then they did that. Like
Yeah.
you don't know at
And
that age that like
it
what that
yeah, it was the
means.
way she said, and then my mum never touched me again. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, that's heartbreaking. She said she was like 10 at the time or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and like even when you get the flashback of Golden Boy finding out his brother was dead,
Yeah.
and he's like, please just tell me to
To be
like,
happy.
yeah. And she's like, no, you
No.
need to
Yeah. You
deal
need.
with this.
This is something I think you need to go
Yeah.
through.
So you can clearly see that a lot of that is her own internal anxiety about always wanting to please people and never knowing if someone's being honest with her and a lot of like self-doubt. And
Mhm.
it's so interesting how it all works. And like you've got everything as well from like the kids who've come from nothing in Marie versus
Yeah.
what do you call them?
The Silver Spoon kids,
Yeah, they're what are they
like
called? Nepo
Andre.
babies.
Yeah. Nepo
Yeah,
Boot.
Andre the Nepo baby. Um but at the same time, Andre's like, what's the point of being a hero if I can't be a hero? And I'm willing to bet that by the end of this, Andre ends up being a massive dick. Based on the way they tell stories in these shows. He will be the nepo baby who's like, no, I want to do what's right, and then they just end up towing the company line.
That or is it? Yeah. He's either gonna end up doing what his dad wanted and becoming like and going, hang on, nah, fuck this. I am gonna just do what I want and be this person that my dad's trying to build me up to be, or he's gonna end up dying
Yeah.
because he doesn't
Um.
want to do that and he's dealing with all that like self hate of feeling like a fake because he's been given everything, sort of thing.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because going into this show, I think a lot of people expected Golden Boy to be like this show's equivalent of Homelander.
Mm.
Mega powerful, has a huge ego, and therefore is a massive arsehole. And so far, he seems to be the most genuine person. I know he's dead now, but like
Well, yeah, no,
everyone else has their own thing that they need to deal with. it seems like he was genuinely just trying to do the best. And I
I
mean, if
well,
he could have made it to the 7, we might have had a chance at stopping Homelander.
I think his thing in a way was, yes, we obviously learned that like the reason he went a bit berserk is because he found out they were keeping his brother, but you could already see that he was somewhat struggling with this, almost like a bit of imposter. Like everyone was bigging him up. He was gonna go straight to the 7 from college. Like, no, the first ever do that. And it's like that thing where you're the number one student at school, but they feel like they're not that great, but everyone's just like they're giving that he's given all these things that he feels like he hasn't earned, and then he's like probably was questioning, am I actually like as good as Homelander? Like, is this
Yeah,
all just do I deserve all this? And then he finds out, oh wait, I've just been lied to by everyone that's bigging me up.
yeah. It's crazy. But the main plot is so interesting. So obviously, all the students know that they were dosed with V as a baby. Now that's common
Yeah,
knowledge. Um, you've got this university, God U or Godolking University.
yeah.
Um, and they find out, or Golden Boy finds out, and then informs his friends
Mhm.
that there's a load of students, ex-students, people with superpowers who are now young adults underneath the university who are being tortured and experimented on, including his brother.
Yeah. It seems
Um,
like, well, I get the sense that, well, his brother was at that other facility
yeah,
that we saw in The Boys, where Stormfront was going and helping run tests and stuff on. And
yeah, where Lamplighter was.
yeah, and I get the sense that after that place went wrong, probably got shut down, and essentially they moved it. They're like, oh, we have a school we sponsor. Let's just hide it under there. No one, and we've also got students that then go, oh, this is too much. We can just take them from there and put them straight under the school. Um, doesn't surprise me. Vought sponsored school doing shady stuff. What a
Yeah,
surprise.
but I mean, again, it's the the social commentary of college life is very interesting, especially in episode 4 when you have Marie go to the mind guy to ask for help finding
Oh
Emma,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden she's in his dorm room, and it's like, well, I mean,
Oh, that
there's
was yeah, that
yeah,
the dick explosion.
yeah. It's like, yeah, there are people who are absolute scumbags, and it's like at the end of the day, he roofied her. He didn't
Yeah.
use actual drugs, but he roofied her. She didn't know what was
He
going
yeah,
on.
and he knew what he was doing.
100% he knew what he was doing. Um, but it's interesting because she's not shown her ability to use her power like that before.
No.
She was surprised by that. You can tell by it
Yeah, she
wasn't
didn't even know how
oh,
she
I'm
did it.
surprised guy blown a dick up. She was like, wait, I don't know how I'm doing that.
Yeah, she's realizing that she's clearly going to be able to just control any blood.
Bloodbender, Avatar
But
fans,
that's
how
basically,
scary.
she is essentially, I am pretty certain she is just going to be a bloodbender, which
hmm
means my first thought when obviously she's like cutting herself, I'm like, that's not good for her because then she's using her own blood. She's going to pass out. Like, that's where like the counter effect comes in to try and balance
Yeah.
all these powers out.
Which I
But
will say they've done a very good job of showing how if everyone uses their power too much or in a certain way,
mhm,
like there's a big effect it has on them.
yeah, I was like, okay, that's cool car effect. Till she's in like a bloodbath of a fight and she's just surrounded by free ammunition, essentially.
Scavenger perk.
But like that's the thing, like she's gonna be nuts in it, like if there's someone's got blown up, like after
Put
go
it this way. If Thanos tries to hit her with all that for a drop of blood, she's like, "Bitch, that's all I need."
yeah, pretty much.
um,
But like you say, the college lifestyle being mixed in with the way that superheroes all are just screwing up everything. Like the girl that uses Emma for views and then comes over to apologize, and you know straight away, and it's like, oh wait, yep, she's recording. Clearly, was all just everyone's just trying to use the other person. Even the dean using Marie to get donations clearly never gave a shit about her.
no, She just wants to keep an eye on her.
She just wants to keep her close, but then also used her to try and get. And Marie realizes, oh shit, I've just been used.
Yeah.
Like this, she didn't really care, like she was showing.
It's also really interesting to see. Obviously, we've known Vought uses their heroes for like sketchy stuff a lot,
hmm,
but to see them also using their media personalities heroes like Tech Knight,
yeah,
and he's not an active superhero. He's a documentary guy,
yeah,
which makes
he's
complete sense to his power set. People can't lie to him. But they will send him somewhere to get information under the guise of a documentary so that he can do shady stuff.
and also it's like you get this thing. It's like this is someone who's got powers. At first, you're kind of like maybe they're not influenced by Vought. They're just kind of they do this as like they question things that anything that's going on and deep dive. And then it's like he messes up and it cuts and it's like, oh, he's faking it all for the camera. He's also like putting on a front. And then it comes out like, no, he is just shady as well. It's I loved the fact though that the thing she used to blackmail him. Like I was not expecting
It is such a boy's way to resolve an issue. Like,
yeah, like
oh,
his
you're gonna blackmail me? Well, here is videos of you fucking donuts and
anything with a
doors
hole
and anything. Yeah.
brings a
Oh,
whole new
here's one of
meaning
you fucking
to
a tree.
every hole's a goal.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
I'm enjoying the show greatly.
Yeah.
I am very, very, very curious to see where it goes from here. And obviously, we know Daniel is apparently even more powerful than Golden Boy if they can just work out how to get his schizophrenia under control.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We're cooking.
Sam.
Sam, yes, sorry, Sam, not Daniel.
Yeah. So oh yeah, we
Um,
don't know where Sam's gone, but yeah,
no,
he's out and about.
I mean, yeah, we cut off at the end of the episode with like a black swish, and then she's in bed with Jordan, and we don't really know what happened in between.
Yeah, yeah, because he went to the doctor's house, which that was a kind of a cool look. Like first look at them as a fighting together sort of situation,
Yeah,
and then we get to see like Emma chowing down and going big mode, which I think then plays a fun future thing of like, okay, they in a way have a tool to control Sam now when he loses control. So until they can figure out like get him in the right headspace sort of thing, at least they have someone in that group that can keep him under control. And then yeah, we just get cut to black and Jordan and Marie are in bed, and then that's that.
the real question, which we haven't even discussed,
Hmm.
how did Sam get the information to Golden Boy?
So
He was having weird dream
he
things
was hearing him and yeah, having like a nightmare about woods. Clearly now is a vision.
of the mural. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sam has some like whether it's because they were brothers, there was some weird power connection there. Um or was that kind of Golden Boy also having similar powers to Homeland where he can hear through walls and he just wasn't realizing he was doing it? Um yeah, that was some weird shit going on there. Also, I think
And
it's
I'm sure that's got to get paid off in a bigger way.
hmm. Oh, it was also funny seeing the director guy from The Boys is now just a theater,
Yeah.
and then
He's teaching over in the media side and hating every single
yeah,
second of it.
he's been locked away because he showed his dick to someone.
Yeah. Again, it just shows the idea that someone getting cancelled is bullshit. They just have to hide away.
Yeah, they just Vought
Um,
just hide them away.
yeah, exactly. So apparently we're going to get some proper A Train and the Deep cameos in the show.
That makes sense. We've had a couple sort of cameos with them on
Yeah.
screens and stuff.
But it's going to be very interesting to see how the story develops, especially with them now kind of realizing that the adults they trusted
Hmm.
are all in on this, and now they're starting to realize how much bullshit is going on at Vault, which in a
Yeah.
weird way makes them more prepared for the Seven than Starlight was.
Yeah.
Because you think back to season 1 of The Boys when Starlight joined, she's like, "This is going to be great," and then it's not.
Yeah, I think also considering they're like playing up this whole thing of like the top 10 in the school are the ones that go on to be the big names, and the ratings is a big thing. Clearly going to cause some infighting a little bit, and then yeah, like if this ends with one, like I don't know, say it's Marie is the number one pick and she goes to the 7, like is she just gonna like suddenly become kind of slip into doing what they all do when they join the 7, which is just going along with it, or is it going to be a change of
Yeah.
situation?
The notion of using Gen V to introduce a new character into the boys
Hmm.
without having to do any prep work in the show for that character is
Yeah.
genius.
Yeah.
Um, but it was also like when you had Golden Boy talking to Brink when Brink was
Hmm.
telling him that he was going to the 7. He's like, "We've worked out how you can fight crime without getting your dick out.
Yeah.
It's this suit," and he's like, "Yeah, no one's gonna pay for that though." He's like, "New York have already said they'll pay for it." And like when you think of them cities that would spend a lot of money on sports teams, it's
Hmm.
LA and New York.
Well,
Obviously,
yeah.
New York spend a lot of money on superheroes because they've got the 7 already. So it's like they're just gonna pay 7 million. You're gonna have an awesome suit, and you're gonna be part of the motherfucking 7.
Yeah. It's like at the end of the day, it's that idea of like, yeah, you've been drafted because you're the number one. They're gonna pay it because they want you because they know that they're gonna make money off you. And probably
Yeah,
7 million is like nothing to them. But yeah, it'd be
it's
interesting
definitely an interesting one.
to see how these characters develop and which ones kind of go like 7 direction with their like not giving a shit sort of slotting in, and which ones actually do stick to trying to be the hero.
I am very, very curious to see who else dies.
Oh yeah,
Because
there's
there's
gonna
no way all of these
no,
people are getting out of this alive.
there's not. It'd be interesting. I kind of hope the girl that screwed over Emma for a YouTube channel somehow gets caught in the crossfire.
Based. That's based. I'm also really curious what the relationship between Jordan and Marie's going to be like going forward.
Hmm.
I definitely feel like we're going to have a situation in the not too distant future where Jordan wants to have fun time, but as female Jordan instead of male Jordan, and Maria's like, "That's weird." And then
I
you're going to
don't
have this whole
know.
thing of, I think it's kind of low hanging fruit that would be very unboys not to tackle.
Maybe I was also thinking maybe they'd just have Marie might come out and be bi. So then that's
Potentially.
why it works.
Potentially.
Because there's that moment before they start making out that first time, Jordan is a girl, and it almost looked like Marie didn't care, and then Jordan switches. So
I'm definitely curious to see because they can take it either way. They can
yeah.
go Jordan being weird because Jordan feels like a girl today and therefore doesn't feel comfortable around Marie. And Marie's like, I don't care.
I wonder if
Or you
the
have it the other way.
school latches onto it and they try to like have them as the school couple sort of thing. And they want Jordan to be
Very
a
possible.
guy. And Marie's like, well, do it for the cameras because she wants
Play the
to be
game.
like, yeah, play the game. But then that causes a rift. Yeah, there's some stuff gonna go on there.
There is options, that's for damn sure. But I'm really much enjoying the show. I'm looking forward to the new
Yeah,
episode tomorrow. And I'm very, very curious to see where it goes from here.
same.
Ned News Network.
Yes, some spicy news this week.
Why is scum so scummy so often?
Well, why are CEOs shocking us still? I think is the real question.
So, after the WGA won and got their deal signed, we were told Sag-Aftra would be going in for more negotiations the following week, and we should all be confident that they're probably going to be close to getting a deal done now.
Do you remember what I said I was worried might happen?
I don't remember the exact wordage.
But it was along the lines that I was worried they're going to try and lowball them now because the WGA got their strike, and they're going to be like, try and pressure them to get back to work quick or make them wait longer. And
Yeah.
it seems they have done such things.
Yes. So SAG-AFTRA have said this afternoon that studios are refusing to continue to negotiate and made an offer worth less than the one proposed before strikes began. And this deal also includes no protection from AI. Now, in slightly good news,
Hmm.
the American government are looking at a bipartisan bill
Yeah.
called the No Fakes Bill,
No Fakes Act.
No Fakes Act, which would basically make using AI without people's consent illegal.
Yeah, for actors and singers
Yes.
and like general
Now,
artists.
it wouldn't stop people like Disney and that trying to pressure people into signing a waiver that allows them to use it,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a step in the right direction. We still need the assurances so that SAG-AFTRA are happy, though. Unless
Yes.
SAG-AFTRA go out and go, this is good enough, it's not good enough. It's that simple. But the notion that the deal they were offering before the strike started, that they went, that deal is so poor, we're refusing to work, and they're now offering a worse one, is fucking outrageous. SAG-AFTRA have worked out it would cost on average
Oh. Oh dear, we've lost Connor, everybody.
a year.
Oh no, he's back.
Oh,
You're back.
we're
It's
here.
fine. Yeah. It's
What was
only
the last thing you
brief.
had?
You said, what was it? I can't remember now.
I'll
Something
start
like,
from top.
yeah.
SAG-AFTRA have said on average,
Hmm.
per person who pays for a streaming service,
Yeah.
it would cost 57 cents per subscription to meet their demands.
Which we know that is going to get shoved onto us if that ends up
Yeah,
happening. Anyway,
they've already found a way to try and bleed more money out of us because of the WGA strike.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am so sick of CEOs in general. There's not a single good one.
There is the odd good one, but they keep their heads down and they're not involved in any of this shit.
But yeah, they just need to
It's wild to me
listen.
that they're clearly going, oh, WGA got their deal. Come on, get back to work. And it's like after
Yeah.
no, that's cool. Yeah, they got their deal. Good on them. We
Now
also
it's our
want
turn.
now you've got to do us. And the studios are like, oh well, you can sit there then, and we'll just. They're clearly going to try and wait them out. Which takes me back to, we said, was it Seth Rogen did like the last big donation? We were like, oh,
Seth
maybe
MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane, sorry, and it was
Yeah.
we were like,
So,
either he's done that because he knows there's a deal about to be had, or things really aren't looking good still. Clearly, things weren't looking good, and they knew that. All we can hope is that those big actors keep helping and supporting the smaller ones while this is happening, and that they don't just give in.
yes. We've got to stay strong here. We've got to keep supporting SAG-AFTRA in their strike because, like we've said time and time again, the creatives are the ones who make the shows we love, not the CEOs.
Yeah.
Talking of just
Bad
dickhead
CEOs.
decision makers,
Yep.
Disney deputies are reportedly urging Bob Iger to buy EA and try to become a gaming behemoth. Now, I tweeted about this when I saw this, and it was hyperbole. I'm aware of this, but essentially, it is the worst company buying the worst gaming company.
Yeah.
When you look at Disney's approach to everything over the last few years, is there anything they've done that makes you think they will not just turn EA into even more of a microtransaction hellscape than it already is? They're targeting EA because EA are already microtransaction hell.
Well, there's two reasons they're going for EA, and I will say I think there's someone slightly worse than EA, which is Activision, just because of Bobby Kotick or whatever his name is.
Yeah, but EAFC
It's
games, FIFA
it's
games,
going
Madden games.
no, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think Activision's on the right path to maybe get better, but yeah, I think EA's been picked as what they want. Is one, it already makes their Star Wars games, so like,
Yeah,
oh well, use we we already work with EA. Why don't we just buy them so we get all of the profit and we're not only getting a split of the profit?
yeah.
Is my thought process, and then like you say, microtransaction hell that is EA doesn't surprise me that Disney would just be like, "Oh, let's monetize this even more." Um, it's. I don't think EA could get any worse though. Like it's already at the bottom. Can EA get worse?
Yeah, they make even less games and they somehow make them all worse.
My worry would be
How many people survive, like jobs wise, a merger? I feel like somewhere on average, I saw that after two companies merge, the company being absorbed tends
mm,
to lay off like 40% of its staff in the first
there
year.
there will be a big chunk that
Yeah. And
unfortunately lose
EA has
jobs.
always unfortunately been a bare bones company as it is.
I
Because every
my
2 or 3 years they go on a mass redundancy.
my biggest worry is EA already produces like FIFA and all them have their issues already. Those aren't going to change. I don't actually think they could get worse. They're already pretty bad, but I'm sure they could find ways. But I worry about games like Jedi Fallen Order and stuff, which have somehow, even produced by EA, have managed to keep hold of their like control enough that they've made good games. I worry that if Disney also then like EA is under Disney and they have more like control over how like they'll push the wrong things onto those studios.
How do we get them FIFA packs in Star Wars games?
Well, I mean, we saw what happened when they tried to do that in Battlefront, and
Yeah.
it did not go well for them. And I worry that Disney would not care and still try it again.
Hmm.
Um, and for someone who loves the Star Wars franchise, it would make me very sad if we lose the only good Star Wars game we've been getting because Disney take over EA.
Yeah.
Um,
But I don't see it happening for starters. If
no,
if they're making such a stink about Microsoft buying Activision, I know EA
yeah,
is smaller than Activision, but I don't know how Disney would be allowed to be able to buy EA.
yeah, I think there would be a big stink kicked up there. And I
I
actually
think
think
so.
Bob Iger cares more about selling to Apple than he would buying EA.
Yeah. How much is EA
Buying
worth?
EA doesn't make him money. Selling Disney to Apple makes him money.
Okay, so EA is worth 35 billion.
Okay.
Activision was bought for 80, but they paid over the odds for it,
Yeah.
didn't they?
Well, yeah, because it's Blizzard Activision, isn't it?
What is their market cap? Where's the number gone?
I
Activision
don't
Blizzard
remember.
value. Um, it's worth a lot,
Yeah.
but Microsoft is comparatively worth a lot more than Disney. No,
I would imagine so, but I could be wrong.
Microsoft's worth 2 trillion. Disney's worth, I want to say, like 80 billion.
Uh, Disney's net worth.
154
Yeah.
is their market capitalization.
Yeah.
So, in reality, I don't know how Disney could even like safely get up 35 billion to buy EA.
Yeah, I think it's one of these things that's been thrown around because the execs in or the ones on the board want to expand Disney into other fields. And they're like, oh, EA is the reputable, like that's a big name game studio thing. We should buy them. gamers must like EA. They're a big part of the market. Probably
I
having no clue that everyone hates EA.
I understand as a notion diversifying what your company does to
Yeah.
protect it. I would argue making films, making TV, theme parks
Mm-hmm.
that's worth 150 billion is
Mm-hmm.
probably diversified enough.
Well, you know what it is. It's that they just want to feed the MCU thing and make more games. It's all just to try and feed. They want EA so they have we can just make a game through EA. We can make this game that we can on this IP, and we can
100%.
just we have control to just do that.
But
Yeah.
it's not something I'd like to see happen, that's for damn sure.
No.
Um again, Disney in the mud, in the mud. Marvel TV shows are a mess, is what we're
Really?
told.
I have never
We're,
noticed.
by the sounds of it, there has been a fuck ton of infighting.
Hmm.
So let me get up these tweets because there's a lot to it.
There is.
So, Marvel Studios plans to make changes on how it's going to make its TV following internal criticism.
Mm-hmm.
The two that were initially touted were shows will now have proper showrunners that write pilots and show bibles,
Mm-hmm.
and they will have a focus on multi-season serialized TV rather than limited series.
Mm-hmm.
What they didn't say while they were talking about how they were going to make a change to make fans happy is that them changes and a lot of other changes are a result of the new deal they signed with the WGA and not their own brilliant idea.
Yep.
But the criticism internally of Marvel's TV was a lack of central vision, not giving writers creative oversight in post.
Which is wild.
There was a fix it in post attitude, which
Also,
explains some of the janky CGI.
also explains a lot with the shows.
Film executives were running the shows, and these shows that were getting 150 million plus dollars a season weren't shooting pilots.
Well, that's no surprise.
They were just given 150 million dollars and just left to do the show.
Well,
What the fuck?
the thing is, that's not that much of a surprise when you look at the fact that they had film execs running shit. So it's like these film execs, they'll have just gone, basically go make an MCU film, but just split it into 6 chunks. Hence, one explains the pacing issues. The fix it in post.
100%.
The fix it in post explains the pacing issues if they're not willing to reshoot and do stuff and change it as they're going, and they're just like, fix it in post. Like you can only do so much.
Yeah.
These it makes sense that they're just given these budgets because they're treating it like a film that they're just chopping up. And like you say, these changes of putting out like the writers in the right places and stuff is because of the WGA stuff. The lack of central vision, I think, is something we've talked about a few times. Of we were worried with like Blade having issues and stuff. Is like it made sense that Kevin needed to split control. Like he could no longer be in charge of everything. But it seems like more and more they haven't had a structure where essentially everything comes back to Kevin. I think there still needs to be like when Kevin was in charge of everything, there was an MCU style, there was an MCU vision, everything connected in a good way. They had it figured out. They wanted it to make it bigger. Sure, Kevin can't do all that, but have a structure where you have a head of TV who goes to Kevin, almost like you have Dave goes to George Lucas with Star Wars. To this day, if Dave's doing anything with the Ahsoka shows and whatever, he goes to George Lucas and just chats with him. You just need that level, and maybe they would have been better. But clearly, they didn't have any of that.
Yeah. 100%. And they why are we not shooting pilots? How do you know if something is going to be good for a TV show if you're not shooting a pilot? For the love of God, people. That is
Well,
the one thing that traditional TV has got right for a number of years. They go, okay, we want this kind of a show. If you are a writer, send us a pilot. Then
Well,
they
that's the
choose their
thing.
ones, they give them money to make the pilot, and then they go, and then we'll see which one we like.
That's where, like, I think Marvel's been doing it so wrong. Is just, they clearly have gone, oh, we want to expand the MCU into TV, but what, like Loki, what 10 years ago would have just been a film. They're like, we'll make it as if it's a film and just split it into 6 chunks. It'll work. There's just this attitude of like, we've made all these MCU films, like it's just chop it up, and that's episodes, and that's how you do a TV show. Like, no, that's not how it
The way
works.
it's worked as well with the inflated budgets explains the pacing issue so much, because they were definitely shooting this on a film budget, and then they've got to the 6-hour mark worth of film, and they're like, shit, we don't have any money left, and we're only like 3/4 of the way through the story. Let's quickly close this.
I think it's also like they've probably spent so much of the budget on post. If they're constantly, fix it in post, that's all costs. So these budgets like are probably so inflated because they know they leave so much to fix in post.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And also, as a result of these changes to Marvel's attitude toward shows, Daredevil Born Again is probably going to be delayed. They've not announced a delay yet, but it's coming.
Oh yeah.
It's undergoing some big changes. So, Marvel found that Daredevil Born Again wasn't working because it was more of a legal procedural and did not resemble that of Netflix version's action and violence. Cox wouldn't have appeared in costume until episode 4.
I have 2 things to say on this, right? Obviously, everyone's gut reaction is like, that's ridiculous. And then I saw some people going, oh, yeah, but that's pretty similar to the Netflix one. Like, he wasn't in the suit, like, straight away. And I'm like, yeah, you make a good point. Netflix was very legal in the beginning. And, like, then we got him in the suit and it ramped up. Netflix wasn't only 6 episodes long. Obviously, I know the MC one was going to be 12, was it? Or 16?
Born Again was due to be 18 episodes.
Oh, okay, they were going to do 18.
But also, Netflix's ones were 8, and 8, maybe. But also the big thing is he wasn't in the proper Daredevil suit straight away, but he was in his like temporary suit.
Yeah, I think it's wild that they weren't going to put him, like, considering that would be fine if it was new character and you're setting him up.
Yeah. 3.5 hours potentially of show before we see him suit up once.
And considering we've seen him in his suit in She-Hulk.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're not like setting anything up. Like, we know what's coming. Like, why are we not?
Oh, it gets better. Apparently, Foggy and Karen were going to be announced to have been killed off screen.
Oh, that's what they were going to do.
They were going to just have them been killed off screen.
Could at least say they just got snapped or something. Like,
yeah. So, Marvel has fired the writers and directors of Daredevil Born Again, and the series is now undergoing a significant creative reboot.
Why do I feel similar to what happened probably with Blade? Kevin's obviously had to like relook at all the TV stuff. Obviously, these new rules are coming in, so he's like one of his main writers or something. He's like, right, go read. Like, you've got to now go. Like, legally, we have to have go look at Daredevil. And he's come back and gone, I don't know what the fuck they've written, but it's shit. And Kevin's gone, oh, for fuck's sake, looked it over. Okay, right, you're all gone. We're starting afresh. Same way he did with Blade, essentially. Like, I think, unfortunately, the MCU grew, like, they tried to expand so quick that there wasn't the correct people put in the correct positions of creative control, and now it's biting them in the ass.
I am once again calling for me and you to be the common sense people in these rooms.
Just like, be sat in the back of these meetings and then just go, I'm just going to interject. Yeah. You realise that's a dumb idea.
So we've decided that we don't want to have Karen and Foggy, and more so we're going to kill them off screen so that no one can use them at all. And then you just have us going, "You fucking what? When?"
And then just be like, you could like do this many other ways that would make more sense. You had a snap event happen.
You
Maybe
could
use
have
that.
easily written them out by just going, "Oh, after the blip, Matt became really, really Daredevil focused, and they couldn't stand to watch him slowly kill himself from his crime fighting, so they had to walk away." Like we almost saw them do in Daredevil on Netflix a number of times. And then at any point, if you want to, you can write them back in.
Yeah.
It's
I
mind-boggling.
will say there's now a little bit of hope in me that they do come back.
I think they will. I don't know why anyone would get rid of them. They're two very, very solid, well-rounded side characters that add a lot. The more crazy thing is to me is they were like, "Oh, we're not going to have Karen and Foggy, but we're also going to make it all about lore, and we're not going to have Daredevil into episode 4." What the fuck were them first 3 episodes going to be? Was it just going to be Matt reading Braille
Do you
court
know?
briefs?
No, do you know what I think it was going to be a situation? It was essentially going to be She-Hulk's like, but not soup court. It's just going to be Matt in court, and I genuinely think they were just going to use a similar model they did for She-Hulk, because She-Hulk didn't suit up straight away, did she?
No, she didn't. Just
So
redo She-Hulk, but as Daredevil, and watch everyone
in
eat
a
it up like
different,
the
it's
greatest
just
thing
like in
ever.
a different city. He's just doing your everyday person legal stuff, and it's like maybe they thought that was going to work. I don't know.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
At least they're starting afresh. Hopefully they get it right
yes.
this time.
Are you on something that actually fills me with a little bit of hope, even though I understand why some people are against it?
Go on.
A24
Mm-hmm.
are looking to subsidize their losses from their traditional projects
Mm-hmm.
by making content from big IPs and like action blockbusters and stuff. So the way A24 have always worked is they make award-winning films,
Mm-hmm.
but they tend not to make a lot of money, if any money.
Yeah, they're sort of the golden indie dev, like indie film,
Yeah.
like peak indie films go through them.
And don't get me
Usually.
wrong, in the grand scheme of the real world, they do okay.
Yeah.
But for a film studio, they are not in what they would describe a sustainable model.
No.
I would be so down for the next Boys Invincible, which are like these off the beaten track projects in the superhero world,
Mm-hmm.
to go to A24 instead and let A24 have a crack at it.
So yeah,
I'd be in down.
I think A24, like they've slowly been built, like making a name for themselves, and their reputation is like on the up. That I think they could use that, and clearly the way that they do films, I think could be good for cinema with like the big IPs, and we
100%.
might like actually get decent films in the under these IPs that aren't just like the same regurgitated film that the big studios are
Yeah.
making.
Yeah.
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 I think it's
It's
good news.
I I understand why people are a little bit scared, because A24 have kind of been for a lot of people who love films but don't like blockbusters,
Mm-hmm.
like their safe haven. It's like I can rely on these guys and have a studio I know make films I like,
I think
and I don't have to worry about them doing anything else. And now people might feel a little bit
I think
like
people are reading this and worrying that they're only going to make these big IP films, which they're clearly not. They'll keep doing these
I
other.
would imagine it's going to be like 1 in 3, 1 in 5, just to subsidize
Well,
a bit
I
of the
reckon it'll
losses.
be they'll get like one, maybe two big IPs, and then only make like that'll be it. So they have a couple of big IPs under their belt that they make the odd film for here and there,
Yeah,
and then that's all they need.
yeah. But very interesting nonetheless.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And a very, very interesting bit of news that just crept up as we were doing our last minute checks here.
Oh.
Elseworlds.
Yes.
So, under James Gunn's DCU,
Mm-hmm.
we've been told that anything that isn't DCU will be labelled as Elseworlds,
Yep.
which to the comic book knowers out there was kind of like Marvel's What If. A little bit different, but the same kind of idea. These are stories where we try off the wall stuff and it doesn't affect the main timeline, and we call it Elseworlds so that you just know this is a funny, goofy story that's not canon.
Yep.
It's a very eloquent design.
Yep.
Elseworlds hasn't been used as a sub brand for a while,
Mm.
but
Which
it's
is
returning from next year.
Mm.
So from 2024, Elseworlds will be returning to print, and they have announced 6 titles that will be coming next
Okay.
year. So we've got Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age,
Interesting.
Batman the Barbarian,
Oh.
Dark Knights of Steel All Winter, Green Lantern Dark,
Okay.
Batman Nightfire,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the one that's most interesting to me, DC versus Vampires World War V.
Oh.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Bearing in mind, like, our only actor right now for Batman is ex-Twilight superstar
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson.
Imagine Matt Reeves' Batman ends up fighting
Imagine
vampires.
just like one of the evil vampires in that comic is like lightly modelled off Robert Pattinson.
I'm very interested by the fact, like, it didn't surprise me, but obviously because it's DC, but like a lot of those are Batman ones to start off with. Also, makes me think they're playing into this whole current situation with the films and what James Gunn's announced, because Matt Reeves' Batman is classed as Elseworlds.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, look, there's a reason why this
So
Batman's different.
I feel like a lot of the time with Elseworlds, it was your big characters. It
Okay.
was
Well, yeah.
Superman, Batman, and then a couple of others, just because Elseworlds were always a little bit more creative.
Hmm.
And when you're trying to sell people on a far and away concept, it
Yeah,
needs to
you
be a
need.
character they
Well, yeah.
love. So the characters that sell the best are going to have the best chance of doing okay as an Elseworlds story.
Yeah.
But also on the flip side, like, people have such strict ideas. I mean, just look at Twitter over what Superman and Batman are, that
Yeah.
if you want to stray away from that even a little bit, you've
Mhm.
got to spin up a whole other fucking universe to try that idea
Yeah.
out.
I like that they're bringing it back though and giving the writers and stuff a bit of like, oh, you had this wacky idea. Let's start making some of these. It's giving you a place to post them, sort of thing.
Yeah. Let's have some fun and let creative people be creative and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's a method I personally believe is pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Are you ready for the thing that always makes us sad every single week? Content championship time!
I'm not that worried this week.
Sorry. It's Andor versus James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
Yeah, it's difficult
I
for
hate
you.
it here. So just put this in perspective. Andor beat out WandaVision.
Yeah.
And James Gunn's Suicide Squad beat out Deadpool 1.
Yeah.
So, like, they won some tough battles to get here.
Yeah.
I hate it here.
It's tough for
as
you.
always, our 6 categories are personal relevance,
Yes.
how well has it aged, rewatchability, story, acting, and cinematography / general visual appeal.
Yeah.
You've not seen James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
I have now.
Oh, have you?
Oh, not. So I want to say yes, but not 100%. My girlfriend watched it the other week when she was over while I was doing some work. So I was like sort of watching it, but not watching it, if that makes sense. I watched enough of it to kind of
understand why I like it.
Yeah. Oh, and like I saw enough of it to be like, okay, this is better than the first one for sure.
Yeah.
So
it's wild to me that it's even a discussion still.
Yeah. So I am more aware of this film now than I was last time we
Okay,
discussed it.
cool. Personal relevance.
Mm,
Now, as we're into the second round, a lot of this stuff is the same as the first round,
yeah,
but with little changes based on any new information
yeah,
or any rewatches, etc. Um, However, I'm not changing anything in this section.
okay.
So Andor, it's the
Yes.
best Star Wars show, and it elevates my favorite Star Wars film.
Hmm.
The only bit of that I think you now disagree with is whether it's the best Star Wars show or not.
Yeah.
But we've already discussed that for me, it's still the best Star
Oh, yeah,
Wars
yeah,
show.
yeah.
And it still does elevate my favourite Star
Yeah,
Wars
yeah,
film
oh,
in
yeah.
Rogue One. Um, and then Suicide Squad is just peak James Gunn and is still one of my favourite comic book movies.
This is all fair. And as we saw, you briefly mentioned that, yeah, I would say for me, as we discussed like the other week, Ahsoka probably takes my number one now on Star Wars show. But Andor is like, they're essentially there together. Ahsoka just like personal, little bit preference.
Yeah,
Andor, like you say, it's a great show. It was, I actually think, turning point with the Star Wars shows. I was like, okay, we are getting some good Star Wars
we've been
content.
eating.
Like we'd had Mando, and don't get me wrong, Mando's good. Then we had Book of Boba Fett was like, oh, this is a bit weak.
I mean, I had you forget I tried
Yeah.
watching Book of Boba Fett, kept on falling asleep during
Mm.
it, and then had to binge watch it before Mando season 3.
Yeah. And so then it's like Andor comes along and it's like, oh, okay, we're in the new era of Star Wars. This is great. And like you say, it builds up on Rogue One even more, adds to that, which is already an amazing film. Suicide Squad, last time we talked about this, I didn't watched it. I have now. I now fully agree. Like it is the better Suicide Squad. It is a lot more comic booky, and I like you. I enjoy it for that. Obviously, only recently watched it, but it's. I can see why you like it so much, and why it's one of the better DCU era um, films as well.
DCEU.
EU, sorry, yeah.
Europe.
Oh.
Um,
Sorry, what's that? Who are they?
How well has it aged?
I'd say
So
Andor's aged remarkably.
I think it's still too soon to say for Andor.
I would agree on that.
I think. Do you know what's crazy?
Mm,
And it's always the same, and we've discussed this so many times. People love to hate stuff, or sorry, people love to have their opinion about something,
mm,
and then 6 months later on Twitter, everyone in unison just starts having the opposite opinion.
uh-huh.
So it's like, this is dog shit 6 months later. You know what's really slept on? This thing. Or this is the greatest thing ever 6 months later. Okay, now that everyone's done sucking that thing's dick, everyone say one thing you hated about it. And ironically, Andor was really divisive when it came out.
Mm,
You had a lot of people like, no, it's boring as shit. And then you had a lot of people going, no, this is fucking awesome. And then me and you were just sat there going, no, this is fucking lit.
yeah.
And then Ahsoka came round, and and then the other half of people were like, this is
This,
dog shit. And then
yeah.
the other half of people were like, this is fucking lit. And once again, me and you sat there like, this is fucking awesome. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? I feel like we are two of very few people who vocalize their opinion on the internet regularly.
Mm.
Who likes both of these shows.
Yeah, I think like it's Andor's aged in such a funny way because, like you say, there was people that hated on it, and I think what's happened is back when Andor came out, we just didn't realize that there's two sides of Star Wars fans. There's the ones that like Andor, and there's the ones that like Ahsoka. Some like political shit that goes on in a futuristic world. Some like mystical shit that goes on in a futuristic world. We are of the few that like both. We like Star Wars as a whole.
We are the center segment of that Venn diagram.
We are the Grey Jedi.
Yes.
So I think, in a way, some of those fans that hated on Andor realize that, oh, Andor just wasn't for me. Ahsoka stuff like that is for me, but Star Wars as a whole is great. I think it's aged well in that sense that some of those people that disliked it realize now, oh, it's just the side of Star Wars I'm not that into.
100%.
James Gunn's Suicide Squad,
So
I
do you
think
remember what I said last time?
I don't. Some well,
I said it could be argued that it being so good killed the DCEU to make way for the DCU.
mm,
Because James Gunn came in when he started the process for this film, he'd been fired by Marvel.
yeah,
And then during the process, he got rehired by Marvel to come back and finish Guardians.
yeah.
Um, I think it's the best DCEU movie. And then they've gone to the guy who came up with it. Hey, would you like to just be in charge of the universe in general?
Mm. Well, then they had him do Peacemaker,
Yes.
and like, oh, he can do TV shows as well. Maybe he
Interesting,
knows
right?
what he's doing. Maybe he does know DC well. I think you're right. I think when you look back now on all the DCEU films, like I would probably agree that like it's the best one there is. I think Man of Steel is very good, but I think Suicide Squad captures that comic feel for the films and in a unique way that stands it out against MCU stuff.
100%. Um, I don't know if it was one of the scenes that you paid a lot of attention to, but the scene where Harley breaks out of the castle and you have her having like a psychedelic trip with all the flowers and that coming out instead of
Mm,
blood.
yes.
That is a fucking comic book.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'd never seen anyone in like an action film like this have so much fun with
The
the
visuals.
visuals of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you see the, I mean, what, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, we were sat here saying Guardians of the Galaxy might be the greatest comic book trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing they all have in common.
Yeah. James Gunn.
Yeah. So
I think it's aged well.
yeah, I think it's going to continue to age better and better. When you consider how well it did at the box office, bearing in mind it was one of the few films that had a dual release of streaming service and box office at the same time.
Mm,
I think once people actually give it a chance, they're going to realize how goated this fucking film is.
yeah.
Rewatchability. Andor's got bang average rewatchability for me at the minute.
Yeah, I don't know if I would rush back to watch Andor. It's hard. Well, I actually, for me, because I've only just recently watched Suicide Squad, I would probably more likely go watch Andor again. But I wouldn't watch Andor again till all of Andor is done. Is
Yes, I get that.
because then I would, once the Andor series is finished, because we know it's leading up to Rogue One, that gives a nice, contained little Star Wars binge of Andor series into Rogue One. Jobs are good and can
100%.
happily enjoy that on a little weekend.
Yeah, I think it's really bad because although, like, I am very much of the opinion that I like to watch stuff that's good, not just dumb fun.
Hmm.
When it comes to rewatching stuff, I almost explicitly only rewatch the dumb fun.
Fair.
So like Andor being so like thought provoking and interesting means it's so much deeper in my brain that I'm like, I don't need to rewatch that because I
Hmm.
could probably rewrite the script to a good enough degree of accuracy that I'm not really forgetting anything too important.
Yeah, I get you.
Um, so like I don't know about other people, but when I remember something that well, I really don't want to rewatch it because I'm just there like, oh, and then this bit happens, and this bit happens, and this bit happens.
Hmm.
I want
I
to
can
be able to
understand that.
forget a bit of it or just watch it because it's fun and makes me laugh. Um, Whereas with Suicide Squad, what I said last time was,
Yeah.
although I haven't rewatched it yet, I am keen.
Hmm.
I have since rewatched it,
Oh shit. So there
um,
you go
and
then.
and I still do enjoy it. So rewatchability is probably about as low as it gets for it right now because I've now seen it twice.
Yeah, but you
But it's
have
definitely,
rewatched it.
yeah, but it is the kind of film that I could easily go. I would like to eat some popcorn, have a bev, chill on the sofa, and watch something I enjoy, and that could definitely fit that bill pretty regularly.
Hmm, okay.
Story.
It's tough because I think we said this last time about Andor. Andor has a very strong story, but it
Yeah, I don't.
leans
Go
heavily on the fact we know Rogue One.
agree. I am actually pretty easy on this. Andor's story, although yes, it fits in a wider context, is phenomenal.
Hmm.
I think you could show someone Andor and they would have enough information from it to
Yeah.
know what's going on and still enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's any like vital information you absolutely have to have, otherwise you won't be able to enjoy this.
Yeah. I would agree on that. I think, especially for like the Star Wars shows, if you look at recently Ahsoka, there was a lot of stuff that you need context to or have previously seen, whereas Andor very easily, like someone new could come in and watch that and be fine.
You cannot watch Ahsoka without watching Clone Wars and Rebels beforehand, at least.
Yeah.
Um, and then on the complete other side of it, Suicide Squad is kind of goofy.
Mm.
It's very much action comedy,
Yeah.
but it still it has its beats that it hits pretty hard,
Yeah.
especially with Peacemaker's storyline and everything else going on surrounding that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a masterpiece story for the ages, but
Mm.
it's a solid story. It doesn't take away from the film, and it gives it the perfect situation to be its best self. But
Hmm.
pure story, I'd only want to see an adaptation of the Andor story told in a different setting. The Suicide Squad story told in a different setting isn't that crucial to
Yeah.
me.
That's fair.
Acting. I have not changed my note for this.
Okay. Go on then.
It is still in block capitals. Andy Serkis.
I thought it was still that. Yeah, I mean Andy
I
Serkis.
I still far more often than I'd like to admit think about that scene of him on the microphone
I,
hyping everyone up to get him to fight
it
out.
literally showed up on my TikTok the other day. So
Rent free. It is rent free.
it's
Phenomenal.
the fact that there's so many strong moments of Star Wars to try and get one like cemented into Star Wars fandom, and that seems to have done it in such a short space of time. Essentially, it's like it just shows to the level of that acting and that moment.
100%. Um,
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. It's solid.
Yeah,
It's Idris Elba. It's
yeah,
Margot Robbie. No one does a bad job. But at the
no,
same time, they don't need to do a phenomenal job.
no. It's like at the end of the day, it is a comic book film.
Yeah.
We've said the story isn't as like intense as what Andor's is.
I will say it's the first project John Cena did that made me give him a bit more respect as an actor.
Yeah,
But a lot of the heavy lifting for respecting John Cena as an actor was done by Peacemaker because that actually deals with the character in a bit of a different way.
mm,
Um, but I mean, yeah, the acting's as good as it needs to be.
yeah,
Idris Elba and Margot Robbie, we know are phenomenal actors. If they needed to be even better, they would have found a way to be.
hmm,
But I think they all acted perfectly for the level that was required of them.
yeah.
And then cinematography might actually be the most difficult choice here.
See, I yes, there was a lot of stunning visuals in Suicide Squad. Like you mentioned earlier, the flower scene and all that. And the way it's shot is great. I think I'm such a sucker for Star Wars that is like there's certain moments and the visual appeal of Star Wars to me that like I just can't not love.
So I get that, I do, and I do think at a base level, Andor is more visually appealing. But at the same time, Andor is trying to capture like a realism of beauty with like a
Mm,
sun in space and these foreign alien landscapes,
mhm.
whereas Suicide Squad is going for not this cartoony, but like this comic book kind of over exaggeration of certain things, really saturated colors, these like
Mm,
really cool shots that don't necessarily make any sense. Do you
yeah,
know what it is? It makes me think of you know when they were shooting Lord of the Rings and they had the massive battle at night and someone asked Peter
yeah,
Jackson where's the light coming from and he went the same place as the music.
yeah, yeah,
And it's kind of like idea. It's like, yes, if you really do sit there and look at Suicide Squad, you will find yourself going, "Oh, that kind of working that way doesn't make a lot of sense."
mhm,
And then you're reminded they're fighting a giant alien starfish, so
yeah,
maybe it doesn't matter.
yeah. No, I
Um,
get what you mean.
so while I would never say that Suicide Squad is better looking than Andor, I think it accomplishes what it's trying to do as effectively as Andor.
Yeah,
But Andor is absolutely more visually appealing. Like
it's
it's do you know what it is? It's the whole idea of someone who can do beautiful abstract art is
yeah,
doing beautiful abstract art.
yeah,
However, I'm more likely to go wow at someone who's painted a photorealistic bowl of fruit
yeah,
that's worth 50 pence compared to an abstract art piece worth 10 million.
yeah.
Maybe
I know what
maybe
you
we're
mean.
not deep enough, but
No,
I
I
know
get
what
you.
that is, and I can look at that and go, "Oh my god, that's crazy." Whereas with abstract art, you have to interpret it. Um, this might be so far the most difficult one for me.
I can imagine it is.
What do you have winning?
So, personal relevance, I would lean to Andor.
Okay,
I would then say rewatchability. I mean, I've only just watched Suicide Squad, so it's like I probably would say Andor because then I think it takes it because I can watch it with Rogue One. It's a nice little chunk of Star Wars world that you can enjoy. Um, how well it's aged. I actually think I would say Suicide Squad because I didn't know much. I hadn't seen it. I have now watched it. I now understand like how good it was, even though it got a lot of initial concern, I guess.
yeah,
Uh, acting and writing and cinematography. I mean, acting goes to Andor. That's no
yeah.
question, really, for me. Story, I would probably also give to Andor. Cinematography, it's hard. I want to say Andor, but I do also respect like what Suicide Squad did. So unsure. Maybe tie there. Maybe more Andor leaning. For me, this is going to be Andor leaning, very much so.
I do not disagree in the slightest. Do you know what it feels like? And I'm not saying it is what it is. I'm just saying it's what it feels like.
Hmm.
You know how we sit here and we say like the Batman got robbed of a cinematography nomination at the Oscars because of snobbery.
Yeah,
It feels like we're being snobbish towards Suicide Squad because it's the goofy team up movie, whereas Andor's like this political drama piece.
yeah,
But at the same time, I still think Andor accomplishes what it's trying to do
mm,
better than Suicide Squad accomplishes what it's trying to do.
yeah.
that makes sense. So I think I can agree with
Andor going through.
Andor going through. It does suck because I'd like to see both these get a bit further, but I do think what Andor was trying to accomplish is more difficult to achieve, and I think it did it just as well as Suicide Squad did.
Yeah.
So that makes Andor simply better. But also, it's our gut instinct, so who cares if we're being snobs about it?
Yeah.
On the flip side, so each to their own, you know?
Okay, angry Star Wars fans, you can chill out now.
Yeah, everyone take a deep fucking breath, all right? That does mean out of our 3 out of our 3 Ram 2s, 2 of the winners from the album Star Wars.
What can we say? It's just a great.
And we have
IP.
more Star Wars next week.
Oh shit!
Breaking Bad versus Return of the Jedi. You've not seen Breaking Bad,
no.
So that'll be fun.
I'm not.
You've got a week. It's 6 seasons.
Stop. I do not care enough about Breaking Bad to do that.
Yeah. Once we're old and retired from the podcast game, maybe you'll have time to watch it.
Yeah, maybe.
This is not the time of year to be watching stuff for pleasure. There's far too much to be done. But thank you as always for hanging out. This has been an absolute monster episode. We'll be back next week with more Gen V, more Loki, more other stuff. I'm sure there's always more stuff. Oh, wait. Next episode will be the last episode before Spider-Man 2 comes out. How exciting.
Oh. You're going to be frothing at the mouth.
Literally, I'm hardly going to be even listening to you because I'm going to be trying to see if I can find a way to get the PlayStation to let me on early. Have I ever shown the PlayStation?
I don't think you have shown the podcast the limited edition PlayStation in all its glory.
I mean, I can definitely show the controller. That'd be a lot.
I was going to say it's not in frame.
That's controller.
Yeah,
because obviously I didn't have a PlayStation.
Just in frame.
Google it if you want to see it. I didn't have a PlayStation because I was an Xbox boy, and then I had a PC. And after playing like the PC release of Spider-Man, I was like, I'm not missing out on Spider-Man again. So then I bought the limited edition one because, you know, I'm an idiot. Buying a house, by the way. But yeah, that is it from us this week.
Yes, it is.
We'll catch you next week. Make sure you're liked up. Make sure you're subscribed up. Otherwise, we'll be at the foot of your bed when you wake up.
Heyo.
Heyo.
Well, we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.